And just like that, we are at the end of all these 9 days of autumn dialogues. Oh, yay, hi. So we are, wow, at the end of this entire series, 9 days, 9 conversations. Wow. And what a journey this has been. So today, finally, we have brought to you all these faces that are behind the camera and behind the scene, and people who actually weave the magic that you saw over the last 8 days. And today, our topic is the last bit, culture curry. Because as a group, as a team, we very strongly, staunchly believe that if you're not having fun, it doesn't make sense. Gone are the days of being angry with activism and wanting to change the world. We have all grown older, and with older, we have also grown wiser and realized that if we are not having fun, if the dialogue is not two-way, if we are not engaged, we aren't quite in it. So with that mood and to set in that mood of joy and fun, we are here with Culture Curry. Today, what we will just do is to look at what was happening in the green room conversation, rather a red room conversation, because as you can see, we are all in resplendent red today. We color coordinated because we wanted to be one team, even though we are now sitting in many different continents, to be fair. But here we are, all together in front of you, engaging in a dialogue that will form the 9th dialogue of the autumn dialogues. And to begin with, first, we, as many of you who have been audience consistently know, that we traveled from empathy into wellness, into body, all the way up to ecosystem and culture curry. So first I'll come to the person who was the lady behind empathy. Now, empathy is a subject that was close to our heart. Empathy also demanded that we create a situation and an overall environment of empathy among us first, before we could take it out to the world to offer something that they can take away. Susan, I am looking at you and I'm coming to you. What appeared to your mind? What happened in the scenes, behind the scenes, on the scenes, and on the screen with empathy?
Oh, thank you, Sinjini. And thank you to the whole group. Thank you to everyone who's listened and joined in and been part of it. It's been such an amazing journey. It's there's been a passion of mine just anyway to connect with others, and this has given us the avenue to get people all over the world together of all cultures, and it's just been incredible for me personally. I've always been passionate about the aspect of, you know, if you're going through hard times, can you help others get through them? Can you find like help from what others have been through? And we were working on something prior to this called I'm Not the Only One, that if you're going through something, you know, can you share your experiences with others so they don't feel like they're the only one? And then when this opportunity came, it was almost like we'd only literally done 1 or 2 sessions of the other thing. And it was kind of like, yes, this fits and aligns with exactly what, and it was almost like the universe just opened up. And then to see the growth that happened within this, you know, when people were joining from Australia, from America, from England, to see how it grew, to see how you led the team, to everyone into their focus groups, so many learning curves about how you work with different cultures. How do you organize a Zoom call over 3 different time zones? And to see it come to fruition, to see it actually being shown, to see those conversations happening has been so humbling. And not only that, I just feel like I've learned so much from so many inspirational women, more than I could have ever have imagined, not only in sharing problems and skills, because that's where I was coming from, but even in a spiritual way and a finding of my own self through connections with a lot of you, of what inspired you and where you've been going. So I'd just like to say thank you. I could ramble on forever, but I'm going to say thank you. Behind the scenes, it was just amazing to watch. So I'll hand back to you, Sinjini.
Thank you. Even when you ramble, you speak beautifully. And this was not rambling at all. There was so much, we couldn't even enter the topic, being confident in your own skin, as excited as Susan is right now. So I can imagine, but you can definitely catch up on the topic because the recordings are right there in the page and on YouTube, etc. But this is what went on behind the scenes. We kept inspiring each other, I guess. We all learned and absorbed like a sponge. Coming to you, Moshomi. And Moshomi is actually the state president in Telangana for Mentoring and Soft Skills WICCI, and an essential part of the entire autumn dialogues. And the way she picked up and then did a Veni Vici Vidi on wellness was a phenomenon in itself. She was till the last minute wondering, what is going to be my topic. And I think it was a last day inspiration. She was like, after Suzanne recorded her session, she was like, now I know, I'll go impromptu. What made you go impromptu and what happened after that, Moshumi?
I think, Sanjana, it was the presence of all of you. I mean, as you correctly said, that I didn't even know what to do. I started very late. I didn't know anybody. I mean, I met Suzanne for the first time when we started recording for wellness. I met Suzanne, I met Ratna, and I was like, okay, but the way she started, I think that made the beginning and that set the benchmark. But then, I mean, the motivation, your smiling faces, it was, for me, it was wellness all around. It was joy all around. It was the smiles, it was the sharing, it was the beauty of just being there, just being confident in your own skin, as Suzanne says. Actually, that made all the difference. And uh, I just started and I was myself. So for me, autumn is beautiful because of its colors. I love colors. So when I had to speak of autumn dialogues, naturally I started with the colors. And then wellness is all about being wonderful, being beautiful, seeing the beauty in others. And that is also a lot of colors. And I feel that if rainbow has the eighth color, I think each one of you would be the eighth color. That is the beauty of you all being there.
That's a wonderful compliment to each one of you. We graciously accept that compliment. I next come to somebody who hosted and who embodied the body wisdom. Somebody who was, I think, the most transformed technologically, if I may say so, Celia. I have been, in close encounter with Celia through the process of her understanding, learning, resisting, transforming, because it's not easy. Technology is not easy. We are all grappling with it. But it was a very funny and a very endearing journey with you, Celia, talking about technology. Tell us a little more, just 1 or 2 minutes, about how body wisdom came about.
Okay, did I hear you say technology? I don't even want to hear that word. I'm still becoming friends with it, obviously. And it is a journey. And with that journey comes a lot of growth and learning. And I have had some amazing support in the background with Davina and Moshimi and others just chatting. Susan, I've had so much help from people saying, it's okay, we're holding the space here. Don't give up. Don't go away. Hang in there. And then just juggling the time difference. How Body Wisdom came about was certainly the category. There's a couple of places I spoke within the series that the body wisdom really is close to my heart, just for the way that the human nature and the journey that we go with changing bodies, whether it's health of our body, whether it's our emotional, mental connection to our body and the way we express that in the outside world. And so for me, it was in this particular instance a little more around intimacy and our relating to one another in that front. And it's a little passion of mine because I see it as such a big issue and often unspoken about. So Sinjini had put that as the primary group that I might be interested in speaking into. How I became the team leader, I don't know. It just happened. I was just coming along for the ride, learning and meeting beautiful women. Suddenly, before I know it, I'm team leader. It's an honoured position because all the ladies underneath and within our group really came together and very instantly turned up with offering to do their videos and stepping straight into that space. And everything was going along beautifully. seamlessly. I got my video done really quickly, straight away, yet it was done in a couple of takes. So the couple of takes suddenly had me working out, how do I put it together? So I had to get it stitched together. One of the lasses offered to help, then her life, as life does, it gets very involved, and wasn't able to do that support right now. Then I looked at my Apple computer, and I have stitched video together before, so I went on that one, about to work it out. My movie maker on the Apple decided it did not even want to open, so I was left without it again. Then fortunately, so I'm not the only Australian woman in this group that suddenly helped me. I had a young lass that I know who's a filmmaker, and I had to race to her place in the middle of the night saying, can you help me, save me? Can we stitch mine together so I can send it off to the group for Davina to put it together? So I had a young lady, I've actually got photos, she had just done a modelling shoot, full body paint, in front of a computer, stitching my video together. So it was certainly big learning and a lot of involvement from outside our original circle of interacting. And
Awesome.
with that then came the amazing stories with one another. And what I probably grew the most with was all those extra meetings and conversations where I got to learn so much more about what you guys over in India and in England and America, especially on the main continent of India, all your different perspectives that you're looking at. So I learned so much without even being a viewer yet of your videos. So I can't wait to have a look at all the different speakers I have met.
Thank you so much. And body wisdom, and especially the topic that we chose in it, to speak your own truth and to give everybody a free choice what they wanted to talk about. So somebody spoke about the media portrayal of women's body, somebody spoke about LGBTQIA, somebody spoke about intimacy, somebody spoke about pain, and the sheer power of being able to just stand up and speak about your body. That was magical. I mean, to me, this was frankly one of the most powerful sessions that we had through Autumn Dialogues. When we talk about women and bodies, while of course totally it is a matter of choice and not compulsion, but a large number of women go through a big transformation through their bodies when it comes to maternity and motherhood. However, here is this, a little bit of an irony, or if you call it a little bit of a okay. So the thing about motherhood is that when we say parenting, we think motherhood. There is this social connotation that makes motherhood up on the pedestal, but also puts so much on its shoulders that it gets too heavy for women to do many things that they can do, possibly, if that was to be a fair share of parenting. So when we were discussing what to do in the next episode, which is children, we thought that we would not shine the light on mothers, because shining the light on mothers is actually a covert way of shining the burden on mothers. And we won't do that. We would instead talk about fathers. And think about it, fathers don't really get a fair chance of doing this. So Nidhi, now I come right to you. Nidhi was the team lead for...
So you were asking myself, Sinjini, or are you putting that out to somebody?
Nidhi. I'm talking to Nidhi, because she was the team lead in children's, and she hosted a beautiful panel with a lot of fathers. And before I give it over to Nidhi, let me take another few seconds. So our journey with the joys of fatherhood went like this. We were supposed to record on a Sunday. Friday evening, Nidhi says we have no fathers. So it's not happening on Sunday. And then she reports we have 3 fathers. And then she reports we have 11 fathers. We went from being fatherless to having a dozen of fathers. Finally, few of them turned up, a few of them disowned us. But what happened after that, Nidhi?
Okay. See, Thank you so much, Sinjini. Actually, first, I would like to thank Vicky in the group. That, and I must tell you that I was so happy that children, the focus group children, fell into my arms. I really am very passionate about children, and that is one group I otherwise also identify with a lot. So when this focus group fell into my arms, as I say, we were also very particular about what is to be done with them. And as soon as this idea came in Sanjani's mind, that let's talk of joys of fatherhood, and it clicked immediately with me. There was no like I didn't even take a second to say that yes, Sanjani, we need to go ahead with this. Joys of fatherhood is something that we have. And then there was this struggle of getting fathers to come on board. And that really was some struggle for us, because first we talked about getting a Google form, and then getting their responses, and then whether those responses would be to the affirmative or not. So that was quite a challenge at that point of time. But right from the beginning, we knew that 8 or 9 would be enough, and we would go ahead with even 6 or 7 if that be the situation. And that is what happened. Ultimately, we had the the panel discussion. It was not exactly a panel discussion, a roundtable thing. And the most important part of that was, if you call this a goof up, but it did not end up as a goof up, so to say, because we did have a set of questions, because we were very particular, because these are fathers, and we didn't want them to be conscious about the fact that we want to bring about this aspect as to as a competitive thing between motherhood and fatherhood, or something that we would judge at some point of time. So we were very conscious of that fact, and we did have a list of questions. But these fathers were so excited about their fatherhood that we actually just began, say, if we say it was rambling, that rambling made a lot of sense, because it's rarely that we talk to fathers about the emotional aspect of fatherhood. And this was something that just came out one after the other, and each of the father was so excited about talking about their journey as fathers, and there was a no holds barred discussion and a conversation. It was so enlightening, and we really enjoyed. I'm sure Sanjini would second that. It was very enjoyable, and it was so different. No, the idea itself was so different. First, we had our apprehensions, but then it worked out really well for us. So I'm so happy that it happened. And we do have lined up maybe in the future sessions we may go deeper into this understanding of parenting, because children, of course, are a product of the adults, or the people. What we are products of our childhood to a great extent. So it is a very important thing that we need to take up in future.
So this is what was exactly happening at the end of each of the recordings. So before the recording, there was a lot of strain and lot of tension and lot of like, okay, I'm doing it this time, no more. This is the start, this is the end. And right after the recording would complete, the next moment, a phone call would come to me from most of the team leaders saying, so in the next session, we are going to do this. And in the next, and there are so many ideas. And that's the beauty of getting the ball rolling, which is exactly what we tried to do with autumn dialogues. It was not easy, but it was so worth it. And when we talk of children and parenting, the obvious next step that comes in is careers, because like it or not, approve of it or not, somewhere in our parenting we are heavily overburdened, or somehow overwritten with the idea of what will our children become and what profession would they take up, etc. And careers is one topic which, as children, we think it belongs to children and adolescents. But as women now sitting in this panel, or also for those of you who might be listening to us, or even for men, many of the men who might be listening, we do also take a second shot at careers nowadays. Mid 30s, mid 40s, we do look back and we say, what we decided at 17 or 18 years of age, was that how I want to live my rest of life? And so first career, second career, together career. Devina. Devina was in charge of career, and Devina was in charge of many more things, which we will also come to. All this colorful, whatever expression you are seeing, all the videos, everything was finished by her. But before that, on careers. So what happened with careers is that Devina, of course, took it under her wings, very able wings. I knew for sure it's in good hands. But I was still in my heart waiting, when is she coming up with a plan? When is she going to say something? And finally, when she did, wow, we were like, why did we already plan our programs? We could simply copy from her. That was the most meticulous and the most organized way of doing it. It was so easy and it was superbly done. So, Devina, now over to you. Teach us a few things in everything that you do.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjani. Thank you so much. First, for making me a part of this entire initiative. I mean, I honestly feel I have the most to gain from this experience because I have the most to learn. I practically bring in no experience and just this enthusiasm to learn as much as I can. And that's perhaps the best thing that's happened to me. And even with careers, it's so poetic that I've just started my career and I'm starting the journey of careers with WICCI as well. I mean, careers journey of WICCI. So it's just amazing to be leading it at this very beginning, because I know no matter what I do with it over the next 3 months, the collective wisdom of this group will take it to the next level in the time to come as well. So the idea that I had was just to do something a little bit different, because there were so many panels happening and I knew time would be a major constraint. Fitting in another panel would be next to impossible, if not impossible. So yes, it was just from that this idea arose that let's just give people questions to give answers to, and let's just stitch those together to provide some information and some insight into how our career journeys have been, what each one of us thinks about the stories that have happened in our careers, and just take it from there, how our chrysalis has been from classrooms to our individual careers. Maybe somebody will be able to relate to some aspects of it and give them some insight into how they can take the situation and make it better. The other thing was that really worked for me was, in terms of getting responses from everyone, was that I realized is with my experience in the past that it's easier for people to answer when they're asked to share their experience as opposed to when they're asked to share something abstract. So a simple question like, what role do stories play in careers? People might find it difficult to answer that, but if you just add the word you to it, what role do stories play in your careers? It just becomes easier. And that's the entire reason why I think you were so excited about it, and so were so many other people who shared their responses, which is why we were able to come up with that video. It was just so amazing to see everybody's responses flowing and people following up. Can I have one more day? Can I send it by tomorrow, please? Will it be okay? It was just so wonderful. I was so overwhelmed. That's just amazing.
Thank you. And see, I told you there will be something from her to learn for all of us. I promised you before she opened her mouth. And also what she quickly indicated, how difficult it would be to match timelines. So at this point, may I request all the panelists, so I will call out the names in the order in which I can see you on the screen. And if you can please tell, which place you are from, so that collectively we, our audience, whoever listens to us now, they know what it means to match timelines. May I? Nidhi first.
Yeah, I am from Ranchi, Jharkhand, India.
Siobhan.
I'm from Manchester in the UK.
Lovely. Rekha.
I'm from Greater Manchester in the UK.
Devina.
I'm in Greater Noida, India.
Lovely. Suzanne.
I'm in Milton Keynes in the UK.
Awesome. Moshumi.
I'm from Dhanbad, Jharkhand, India.
Lovely. Ratna?
So I'm probably the unique one. Sometimes I'm in the UK, in Milton Keynes, and sometimes I'm in Essen, in Germany.
You see. And finally, Celia.
I'm Celia from Australia, down under.
Awesome. So you see, I mean, what it really means to match timelines and then to do all the recordings and pre-recordings. The next section, for which we unfortunately do not have Swagata, who was the team lead. So the next section was life hacks. And in life hacks, Swagata chose a very interesting topic, something very close to my heart. Though I must insist and tell you at this point that I did not influence that. It was totally her brainchild, and she came up to me saying, okay, let's do this. And that was about how does power change and what does power look like in the future? In other words, storytelling. So she said that storytelling is the best way of making social changes. And how can stories create or enhance or catalyze social change is something she wanted to explore. And that session was beautiful. That is also another one closest to my heart. It was four of us speaking. One, she is in the New York City and she works in the theater. She also acted in a few Hollywood movies. So she spoke about fiction and writing, and also writing her screenplays for her theater and storytelling in many visual and many performance art point of view. The other person was actually a storyteller who created an app called the Story City, which was about knowing the history of the local place that you go to through stories. So knowing geography, knowing history through stories by following an app and just solving the next riddle, which will take you from one milestone to another milestone within a city. That was such an innovative idea. And then I spoke whatever I know of storytelling, which is, I think, it is the power and the superpower of the future. The future belongs to stories, and I very staunchly believe that. I weaved Lighthouse on that, and it was a fantastic discussion. I miss Swagata because I wish she was here to talk about that. But I'm sure each one of you have gained a lot from that session. If you haven't watched that session, do watch that. That is one of the most highly valued, and I think that would be one of the most high library values of all the autumn dialogues we would do. I'm very proud of the session. Moving to the next one, let's come to corporate workplace, the final vertical, which out of the 9. So this is the penultimate one before we come to culture curry. So there again, we wanted to bring up some break in the pattern. And when we decided we wanted to talk about women and workplaces, the very easy route for any of us was to go to the way we always go, which is about gender, politics, bias, unconscious, subconscious, aware, conscious, all kinds of things. But here our motive was slightly different. How to engage men in the gender dialogues. So that is what we tried to do. We said women and workplaces, essential conversations, and at every point, with every round, with every participant in the round table, we over and over spoke about a man's responsibility in parenting, which should fall under the purview of workplaces, as looking after a holistic whole person who comes to workplaces to work for 8-9 hours, but is essentially one whole 24/7 human being. And then also how to involve leadership, how to involve students, how to talk about representation, how to talk about sensitization. So I believe that with all of that, and you have now got a glimpse of what it looked like, starting from empathy, which is the quiet voice we don't talk about, to wellness, in light of 2020, where an invisible, tiny, not even being, took over the world and showed us what it is for what it is, to speaking up on body wisdom, to talking about joys of fatherhood and children, and then to talk about career, to workplaces, to life hacks, to storytelling, to listening to our children, and to the future of the world, just as so rightly Aparajita said. and then to bring men into the essential dialogues of gender, and finally to round it up with this session, which I hope has been fun for each one of you. But before that, there are two very, very important things that we keep missing out when we think about all of this. One is project management. And so now, Ratna, I'm looking at you. All of these things happen. We are present on the screen, people can see us, but behind that, those Excel files, those standard ways, so that we can reach for the right facts, right data, we can put things in the place so that we can retrieve it in the most easiest accessible way. That's not easy. Ratna is in charge of all of that, and it's a fruit of her labor that you see on screen right now. Ratna, how did that journey go for you?
Thank you, Sinjini. Thanks, Sinjini. Yeah, project management. And here's one of the biggest challenges, as all the ladies said on this call: different time zones, different places where they live. And most importantly, we are all individual cultures, all of us that are sat on this call right now. So here's the biggest challenge of project management. How do you bring everything together when you all individually think so differently? And then to come along and say, guys, we need some order, because everyone is so passionate. Some people are logical, some people are creative, some, the colors, whether you're red, yellow, blue, or green, bringing all of that together. But we want to give accountability. We want to be organized, and we need every part of it as well. And we have very powerful women on this call, for sure. Powerful, amazing women. So that was a different challenge for me this time. Usually I'm the leader when I do it. And now you're like, dare I tell everybody that you have to actually get yourself into order? And, instead of asking for permission to do something, sometimes it's, I'm going to grab it. This is what my skill is, and I can bring it into order. It's not fully in order yet, because we're evolving as we go along. And that's the key part of culture. Culture constantly changes. If culture doesn't change, all the things that people have said on this call, you can't change generations, you can't have empathy, you can't discuss the topics that we have as well. So project management is necessary because we want to be able to show to the world all these dialogues that we're having. What use are they to people? Because if it's just the calls that we have, one day we want to be able to give a library of what we've actually achieved together and give that to everybody as well. These calls should not just be what we're giving out right now. They should be somewhere where someone can go to in their moment of need, in their moment of inspiration, to say, on that day, that call happened. On that day, Nidhi said this. On that day, Susan said this. And have somewhere for someone to go to all the time. And that's why you need the project management. And yeah, it's a challenge when you're working with so many passionate people. But I'm also blessed where people said, it's okay, you can go ahead and do it, just do it. Yeah. And the way I look at it, my motto is usually just do it and ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah.
I just want to add one more thing. The project management also happened, and I am super, super proud of this, that there's a young person on this call, Davina, the youngest of all of us, who is so inspiring to want to learn from all of us. And the way I look at it, even as the generation who are more mature, the fact that we can inspire somebody else who's younger and just says, I want to be able to take that on board. Look how she just took over, because I had to step out because of things I had to do. But that's what you call building a culture.
Absolutely. Devina has been the center, and all the posters and all the creatives and all the beautiful starting and ending to all the recordings that you are seeing, which perhaps sets it a little different from all the other live sessions and makes you want to watch us more than others, I'm hoping. So this girl is responsible for that. Also, a little word for Ipshita here. So Ipshita was the person who was doing all the creatives, but she works 6 days a week. She travels from Noida to Gurgaon every day. and she has a lot of responsibilities and a lot of parallel careers, etc. So I had given this to her, not being so aware of what Devina would be doing, etc. So she was handling careers, Devina, from the very beginning. But at the point when Ipshita kind of threw her hand and said that, okay, I don't know, something which is very fair, and she has done an enormous work of, enormous deal already before. But around the point when Autumn Dialogue was absolutely knocking on the door, Devina came upon the entire Autumn Dialogues thing as an angel, and she picked it up, and she's perhaps a person of not too many words. She's like, leave it with me, and by the end of the day you have it on your inbox. So Devina, tell us a little bit about your secrets.
So so my entire life I've only achieved whatever I have because there were always people behind me who were pushing me forward. So and my biggest inspiration in situations like these comes from a speech that I actually heard at Toastmasters, which was titled "When we can, we must. When we can't, we could try." So that's my entire inspiration. That there might be a day when I can't do something and I would require somebody else to step in. But when I can, I must. And even if I can't, I could try. So that's the reason I just said, we got this. And I'm just lucky that we were able to pull through. And it's just fate. I had 2 very easy days at work when we were faced with that challenge. So we were able to manage to, at least streamline everything. So everything kept happening as time progressed. So yeah, stars just aligned. Everything's working in our favor. It's just fate.
So if Devina's favorite line is "I've got this," so our favorite line would be "we have got her." The 2 remaining people who have been pillars behind all the work we have been doing, Shiobhan and Rekha. Shiobhan, if I can first come to you. How has your interaction with Indians been? I think your limited interaction with Indians the first time. How is it? What are your impressions, and what do you look forward to?
It's kind of not sort of like my first interaction. I grew up in a community in the UK that was an immigrant community. I lived there from an Irish perspective. It was Irish, Italians, Ukrainians, and Indian people in the area where we lived. Ratna lived up the road from me. Rekha lived not far away. So I have had a background of living in a community with people from India. But then you kind of work takes you various different places, doesn't it, and things like that. So it's kind of like when Ratna spoke to us on our Into project about what was happening here, and it was like, this is like an opportunity that I really wanted to get involved in with, because we were looking at how we were working our Into things and the stuff that Susan and Ratna had invited me into on those, and it was like, do you know what? They don't just apply to somebody in the UK. They apply to everybody. They apply particularly to women, but they apply to men as well. But they apply to people, and I think that was the thing. So in some ways, it's kind of doesn't matter where we are in the world, where we come from, what our background is. Those problems that we face them, and that we spend so much time thinking that's me, and how am I going to deal with this, and how am I going to manage that, and how am I going to do these things, when there's so many strong people out there that have probably faced that before. And even though they'll tell you their story, and you can't necessarily go away and replicate that because that isn't you and that isn't your story, but sometimes it's just in the knowledge that someone else has lived that, in the knowledge that someone else has had that experience, and they're still here. They lived through it because they're telling you their story, aren't they? So it wasn't the worst thing that ever happened to them. So I think for me, that's been the biggest thing for me, is that I've got loads of experiences to share, but I've also got loads of things to learn. So it's being in a kind of in a circle where you've got that opportunity to do that. And I don't want to be disrespectful to men, but they don't have my experience. My experience is grounded in being female, and my experience is grounded in the roles that society wherever in the world we live puts onto us as being females. So I think for me, it's almost like it's a safer space as well here to be able to share those things and to talk about those things, because we're all coming from the same background and the same experience. So I'm just excited to see what kind of happens next and where we go next with it and what the next steps are. And thank you for having me all the way from Little Manchester over in the UK.
Thank you for being with us, and thank you for especially right now throwing in that very essential and very dear word, emotional safety. I mean, if we can hold this space of emotional safety, I think all the information is available at the end of our fingertip today. What we need is that space to just be ourselves in emotionally safe way. Rekha, I finally come to you. You are a very wise person, and there's so much we have heard from you in various sessions. So quickly, something that that comes across to you from this entire experience of Autumn Dialogues.
Well, thank you for everyone for everything that's been said. I've been listening intently and observing, as I'm sure the world will when they watch this. But for me, I think there's been some fundamentals in this process, personally within myself, but also in terms of how it's connected. And I've already started sharing it. So for me, it was a calling. It was meant to happen. You were all meant to be on my computer screen at some point in my destiny. I just didn't know it. I'm a great believer in that. We're all 7 steps removed from our ideal connections, whether you believe that or not. I believe in that, and it gives me a great sense of peace that the journey is not completed yet. The terrain is challenging, and we need friends. We need critical friends. We need companionship. We need care. We need love along the way, whether that be in our professional life or our personal life. And I think for me, listening to all that's been said and watching some of the other sessions, which has really kind of ignited my interest, and I want to be involved in different things now, moving forward. And I'm very conscious that, as you said earlier, when you eat an elephant, you can't eat it all together. You've got to start in parts. So I've got to learn patience, one of my masteries. Again, a gift from you all, which thank you very much for, constant reminder. But I think one of the things that I've massively learned from this process and meeting you all, which I've shared with many people now, because I've talked about the WICCI to lots and lots of people, particularly I've been doing a piece on emerging leaders, young female emerging leaders, and I've talked about one of my mantras is, if you've got the will and the want, I'll show you the way, because I have footprints that I've walked, good and bad. What you won't get from me is violins that, it's difficult. Well, actually, it was difficult for me. I'm an Indian girl in the UK, married to an Englishman. I've got a whole host of, but for me, the violins are for celebration, not for woe. And actually, you're a strong person. We just need to reframe that. And I've already talked about many of you to other people and said, there's this inspirational woman, you could contact her and get, this is what she does. And I talked about Mashumari, about her business and her experiences, and how motivating that is to the young Bengali women that I work with who don't have a connection. Because as much as I'm Asian, there's always a slight intersectional lens that you have to think about, that I can't, but actually, was I meant to meet you all so I could connect those inspirational stories? If that's the one gift I can give, then I'm happy, because actually that is more fruitful than anything I can do. And the great thing about all of this is that's the thing that sticks. So our clothes deteriorate, our hair goes short and long, our skin will change, we will grow old, and Davina, you will too, unfortunately. But what we remain is those significant moments in our timeline and the impact it's had on our history. So for me, that is fundamentally what WICCI has done for me personally, in terms of my connections with you guys all over the world. And I've got lots of questions for you all, but also what I've already started to do to hopefully pave that journey of exploration for other people. So yeah, it's a massive thank you, and it's a massive step. It's a bit like the bottom of the mountain, not quite the top, but I'm more excited now because we've reached the bottom of a mountain, and I thought that was the destination. It is not. And for me, that's an exciting point, because it tells me that there's so much more to come. And turn the page, let's start the next exciting conversation. I'm all in. So thank you.
Awesome. And so well said. If I pick up two things from what you said, Rekha, one, we are at the base camp. We are just starting to climb, and it's beautiful. And we are in very good company. We would love to have many campfire nights with each other. Which brings me to the second point. I think right now we were all meant to be together on this screen. Each one of us, what we are seeing right now in this screen. And for those of you who would be listening to us, who are listening to us as this plays on your screen, we were meant to be. And just watch out. We are at the base camp. We have just started to climb, and it's beautiful. Thank you so much. Everyone inside, outside, inside the screen, outside the screen, and for all of you who are going to be with us in the journey. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.